So I've been mulling this one over for a while, and I'm a big NHL fan. I may primarily do NFL the past little bit just because it was NFL season, but hockey's my primary love. And here I'm taking a look at the NHL, what I find is the biggest problem, and it's their current playoff format. Now, if you're watching and you're new to hockey, or if you're watching and just need a refresher, the playoff format that follows here right now is the top three teams from each division make it, and then you have two wild cards in each conference. Top wild card plays the division winner with the lowest points. Lower wild card plays the one with the highest points. This playoff format got implemented in 2014 for that postseason and has been ran ever since then up to today, 2023, aside from 2 years due to the pandemic there in 2020 and 21 where they had to change the format a little bit. This format is very similar to the 1982 to 1993 postseason format. The only difference being is that the division names were a little different, so were the conference names, and instead of having the two wild cards, the top four teams from each division made the postseason and played each other. So it's very similar to that. The issue here very much lies in that, in my opinion. The NHL Board of Governors had their meeting like they do every year back earlier this month. It is currently March 29th today. And I think they usually have them during March. And they discussed a few things. But when they brought up the playoff format, all of them still seem to be fine with it. And I can't fathom why. I know they give their reasoning. They like to say it's a lot more divisional plans, what people want to see. I disagree, and I think a lot of people disagree, at least I would hope so. And if, whether you do agree with me after my video here or not, it's perfectly fine. It's still great. It's still great hockey no matter what happens. But my case is that it's detrimental to seeing amazing hockey more so than having the 94 to 2013 1 through 8 seeding. And there's a number of reasons why. The biggest one to me that stands out, at least where I'm going to start with, is the fact that, and this is a minor one actually, it's actually a very minor one. The round names, I really hate calling them first and second round before you get to the conference finals. I miss Eastern Conference quarterfinal, Eastern Conference semifinal, then the conference final, for example. Even back from the 82 to 93, they at least called it that division semifinal and then division final before they called it the conference finals. I wish they'd go back to that, but I guess because, well, there's a chance that a team from your division is playing, not from your division, is playing on your side of the bracket because it's a wild card. Maybe that's why they don't do it. My argument there is the NFL does it for divisional weekend, even if it's two teams that are playing from two different divisions there. They still call it the divisional round. That's the minor one, though. That one, whatever you want to call it, first, second round, that's fine. My biggest issue comes from the fact that it pretty much negates one half of your conference if you're fighting for a playoff spot. And right now I'm using the current standings as of today, March 29, 2023, for the upcoming playoffs here. So I got it listed here, your Metropolitan Division leaders in the wild card, Atlantic, Central, and Pacific. The Western Conference, it's not as much of a problem this year in the Western Conference as it is in the East right now. And what I'm referring to is this. The numbers you're seeing in red and blue are where they would be numbered conference-wise, 1 through 8 in the seeding right there, if you were to have it as a 1 through 8 seeding still, not counting division winners as being 1 and 2. I'm just doing it based off point total right now. So generally speaking, 1 through 3 doesn't really have an issue of missing the playoffs. They should be confident that they're going to make the postseason, and they're pretty much a shoe in there. Seed 4, generally speaking, they're going to make the postseason too. Seed 5, I almost could argue could be 50-50 in some years, but they should make it. As we start getting to 6, 7, and 8, that the teams might make it, might not make it. At least that was the case in the 1 through 8. My problem here with this is that I want to point out mostly Tampa Bay at this current point here. Now, they did win their most recent game, but they had a 4-game losing streak going on. Now, they're 6th in the conference. They have 92 points. The thing is, the Islanders and Pittsburgh are about 6 and 7 points respectively, I believe, behind them. Not impossible to catch them if it was the 1 through 8 seeding. My problem here is that when you look below now, Florida and Buffalo are the two teams that still have a remote playoff chance. Not saying they're going to make it. They probably won't. We're not here to talk about that. What I'm here to talk about is that Tampa basically can't do any worse than third in the Atlantic. No matter what the Islanders and Pittsburgh do in the wild card, at most they will bump the Rangers out of a third in the Atlantic, or the Devils, or I guess it depends on who ends up being in third there. I don't think they're going to do it, but mathematically they still could. The thing about Tampa now is that they're probably not going to catch Toronto for second. It's not a big deal in this case. You're still making the playoffs here because even though mathematically Florida and Buffalo could move in, virtually they're pretty much done unless they win out and Tampa has a major collapse. So the third place teams each division almost kind of have a fail-safe of where as long as you do good enough compared to the teams in your division, you're going to make the playoffs. You can't. Tampa's not going to miss the playoffs here, and they have no risk of falling to 7th or 8th because the two wildcard teams will replace a Metropolitan Division team if they go higher. And to me, that just it like I explained, it just cuts off half the conference for you. Out west, it's a little closer, actually quite a bit closer. No teams even clinched a playoff spot yet as of today. Still or as of this recording in the Western Conference for this year. And plus two, the teams are a bit closer in terms that are on the outside looking in. At least there you have one from each division here. You have Calgary from the Pacific and Nashville from the Central. But once again, it's still, and then you at least have one from each as your 7th and 8th seed there for the wild cards right now. So it stifles that race to the playoffs there for teams on the lower end of the bracket there that they might have to worry that someone's coming to chase them. Tampa doesn't have to worry about anything. They're finishing third in the Atlantic. They don't have to end up going to Boston or Carolina now because the Islanders and Pittsburgh will not replace them whatsoever. And that to me is a big, big problem when it comes to seeding there because they can't do anything now. They can't do anything. They're safe in there and they're stuck at 7th and 8th now because they can't overtake Tampa. You can't do it because of the way the playoff sets. And to address the divisional play, I get the idea that it wants to be done for rivalries. The point is these teams see enough of each other during the regular season. And there were rivalries that were made in the 1 through 8 playoff bracket when they had it there that, depending on, of course, how old you are as a fan, you might remember some teams being in the same division before they split it to the Eastern and Western Conference in the 93-94 season and brought in more divisions and all that. But, there were some great rivalries that were formed. That was the era I grew up in. It changed when I was very young, so the only one I know is the Eastern and Western Conference with the 1 through 8 when I was growing up. And you can ask any Ranger fan. I'm a big Ranger fan. You ask me what my feelings are about the Washington Capitals when they played each other in 9, 11, 12, 13. That was before the divisional change to where they're back in the same division now. 4 out of 5 years that the Rangers made the postseason there because they missed the playoffs in 2010, I had to see the Washington Capitals. It was just by random chance. It wasn't because it was forced because of divisional play. But man, I grew into a playoff rivalry with the Capitals. Same time, go back 10 years ago towards the beginning of the 2010. Ask any Chicago fan how they felt about Vancouver. Playoff rivalry that was created there. Teams were nowhere near the same division, one being the Pacific, one being the Central. But wow, that was a great playoff rivalry. It stifles this now when you decide to make it where, okay, no matter what happens here, the Devils are playing the Rangers now, even though if it was a 1 through 8 seeding, the Rangers would be playing Toronto right now. I'd love to see that matchup. I would absolutely love to see it. Not saying I don't enjoy a Devils-Rangers matchup, but there's something more interesting to see about the Rangers playing Toronto than the Rangers playing the Devils. They see the Devils 4 times in a season. They see Carolina 4 times in a season. They've already played each other enough. Not only that, but the way this playoff style is done, and I think this was kind of done, I don't think I've ever announced it being this way, but I believe it's the way. They did it this way because they want to try and make each division have a representative in the conference finals. Because when you have 3 from each thing going, you're guaranteed to have one go at least into the Eastern Conference semifinals from the 2 and 3 matchup there, in case there happens to be a crossing of divisions there from the wild cards. But it still doesn't make anything more fun, in my opinion. It's okay if the Rangers beat the Devils. They're playing. Maybe if a wild card was from the Atlantic, that would be interesting enough. But they're most likely playing Carolina. They're playing another Metropolitan Division team. They won't see an Atlantic Division team until the conference finals. Same thing out west. Vegas probably won't see a central division opponent until the conference finals. Depending, of course, where Winnipeg and Seattle finish up, they very well could face Winnipeg in the first round, or Western Conference quarterfinals, and then you get the matchup there. But you see my point here that it doesn't create any sort of fun rivalries anymore. It's very sanitized, I guess I would say, that you kind of get an idea of who you're going to be playing in the next round. Whereas when it was 1 through 8, I was a lot more engaged in seeing who won, because then you had your reseeding, and the reseeding made a big difference there, because there were teams that you were pulling for in case your team moved on, that you wanted to face instead of the other one. Now, reseeding is still done in the NFL. It's still done in the NBA. I think it's even done in baseball. Out of the 4 major sports, this is the only one that is very railroaded into facing a division opponent in your first 2 matchups. Now, the solution, I would love them to go back to the 1 through 8 styling. Top division leaders are seeds 1 and 2, and 3 through 8 are according. Or if we can't do that, I will say this: I actually did, and I think they still do it. I did like the NBA's playoff format. Not recently. I'm not a fan of that play-in tournament with the 7 through 10 seeds. I'm not suggesting that. But I think they still have it in their rules, or at least they did 5 or 6 years ago. Anyone who might know more than me, please feel free to comment. I don't follow the NBA a whole lot. But their playoff format was that, it's 1 through 8. There will be reseeding. It's still a 7-game format. Being a division winner, though, it guarantees you a playoff spot, but you're still going to be ranked where you're ranked at. So you could be a division winner, but you can still be the 7th seed. Hey, you made the playoffs, though, at least. I would honestly even be okay with that. If I'm looking for a compromise position, all right, you keep it the same way for this format. The first matchups will be typically in the same division there, unless the wild cards, happen to be a different division. But then once you get past your first opponent, you reseed each team, the remaining in the conference, 1, 2, 3, 4, and mix it up that way. Because at least there might be some differentials then in what you're going to get in the conference semifinals there. I think it's a better way to do it. I don't know how much longer this playoff format's going to go. I'm guessing it's still going to be for the foreseeable future. I still think plenty of fans wholeheartedly dislike this. Because frankly, right now, when I'm looking at this, if I look at the conference matchups, all right, it would be Boston and the Islanders, which, these ones don't change necessarily because it's still a 1 and 2 playing the 7 and 8 seed. This kind of more affects the 3 through 6 in the conference. But the matchups like Boston Islanders sounds like fun. You would have Carolina playing Pittsburgh here. Another fun matchup. I know it's division at that point. When you only have 4 divisions, you're more likely to get more division opponents anyway. But then, once again, Rangers, Toronto, and Devils, Lightning. I think that would be absolutely fun matchups there. That's if you're sticking with division leaders being 1 and 2. Let's say, though, you made it just 1 through 8. Wherever you finish up in the conference, you finish up in the conference. Similar to that NBA style. Vegas would be playing Winnipeg right now. The Kings would play Seattle. Edmonton plays Dallas. Minnesota plays Colorado. I don't see any downside to that. I like all those matchups a ton better than it's going to be now. Okay, well, Colorado's playing Dallas because, they finished 2nd and 3rd. There's no way around it. And then whoever wins that's probably playing Minnesota there. There's no way around it. You're most likely playing your division opponent again. And it's just, I don't see the fun in it lasting very long. This playoff format's been used since 2014. I've been tired of it since 2016. It was fun for the first couple years. Now I don't see any fun in it half the time. The 2020 playoffs I thought was a lot of fun because it went back to the old reseeding style, although they added up to 12 seeds there because of the coronavirus, so there was an asterisk next to that thing, but they went back to a 1-8 styling, and that was a ton of fun to watch. I wish they would go back to that. I actually enjoyed that for 2020. So that's kind of where I'm at in this situation here. Let me know what you think, whether you support the current style or want to go back to the style of 93 to 2013, or if you have a different suggestion. I'm open to hearing it all. I think it's fun to talk about hockey. They're still the best playoffs, in my opinion, in all of sports, even if I don't like the format, so I'm not trying to talk down about the quality here. It's just an idea about the format's not fun to watch, in my opinion. So thanks very much for your time here. Thanks for watching. Look forward to talking about hockey again sometime soon. Thanks, everyone. See ya.